Good morning, Tisa. Welcome to U.B.U Outreach. Thank you for joining. I ask that you share with others, let them know that U.B.U is happening right now. So thank you for being a part of U.B.U. Thank you for sharing, Tisa. We really appreciate it. If you know any young folks as well, ask them to be a part of our time this morning. Sister Yolanda, Middle Georgia, welcome to U.B.U. Our time together. Thank you for sharing. If you know anyone else that you benefited or can benefit from our time together this morning, we pray that you will share with them. About another 60 seconds, and then we'll commence our time this morning. Good morning. I know I don't want to, I think Rasha Harris, welcome. Our time together. All right. Well, we're so very thankful for this opportunity and for this moment to be able to come to you. This is U.B.U, simply U.B.U Lifewater Outreach. This is our way of reaching out to our community. We're using the virtual platform for now. Soon we'll be back using our building and facility to have this time together. And Lifewater, again, brings hope to humanity by connecting with our community. And so thank you for your support of Lifewater Inc. And you can follow us on Facebook. You also can go to our webpage, Lifewater Inc. And it's about bringing hope to humanity by connecting with our community. And so please take a look at Lifewater, the things that we do, and trying to bring that hope to humanity by connecting with our community. One of the ways that we have continued to try to do that is U.B.U. It's simply U.B.U. It's our self-esteem program for Lifewater Inc. And we also bring this to ages 12 to 17. And we also bring it to those who are 18 and above. And so we hope today that you'll benefit from our content. We have Dr. Johnson, who is sharing with us again today and who facilitates U.B.U. on first Saturday and second Saturday. And so I want you all to help me welcome Dr. Johnson back to us to share with us what she has, I think, that will benefit us. And so Dr. Johnson, take it away with U.B.U. and our theme for today.
Good morning. Good morning to everyone who has joined, and also greetings to those of you who will watch later. So today we're going to be talking about bullying awareness. And I'm not sure if we have any youth watching, but I do think that adults will also benefit from this content because it's important to know what our youth are experiencing. And it is important to note that adults can also experience bullying. So I have a couple things that I want to share about bullying, and then I'll also share some content about what to do if you're being bullied and how to overcome that. So first, I have a couple true or false statements that I wanted to share. So the first statement says 1 out of 5 students report being bullied, and this is a true statement. And I want to point out that this is only what's reported. So imagine how many kids or how many students are not reporting that they're being bullied. But as far as we know, 1 out of 5 students report being bullied. The second one says bullying can only be physical. And this is a false statement. And I'm actually going to get into the different types of bullying after this slide. The next one says students who are bullied may experience depression, anxiety, lower grades, and lower self-esteem. This is a true statement as well. And the last one says students who are bullied are at risk for suicide or self-harm. And this is a true statement. So what are the types of bullying? Most of us, when we think about bullying, we think about the physical aspect. We think about being hit. We think about being kicked or pushed or tripped. But there are 3 other types of bullying that I would like for us to talk about today. So of course, physical bullying is the first one. Then we have verbal bullying. So verbal bullying includes any teasing, name calling, threats, or someone making harmful comments to you or about you. The next one, which happens to be the most common, at least among the ages of 12 and 17, is social bullying. So social bullying is when someone is spreading rumors about a person, if they're publicly embarrassing that person. And again, the most common aspect of social bullying is social exclusion from groups. So this is when students may tell other students not to hang out with the person or to not be friends with the person for whatever reason that it may be. And then cyberbullying. So cyberbullying is any bullying that takes place online. So this includes someone posting embarrassing pictures of someone sending hateful or hurtful comments on a person's Facebook page, Twitter, Snapchat, TikTok, Instagram. There are so many platforms that we must be mindful of. And then the last one says impersonating someone else is also a form of cyberbullying. So if someone is having a fake page of someone, and on that fake page, they're spreading false information to put out that that person is a bad person, or if they're engaging in any type of drama with another person. So again, we have to be mindful that bullying is not just physical. And I'm not saying that physical bullying isn't important, but we have to be mindful that verbal, social, and cyberbullying all do exist as well. So here are some very alarming statistics that I found about what's being reported. Now, keep in mind, this is only according to what has been reported. So just imagine how much higher these numbers really are, because this is just by what students have reported as well as teachers. So here it says 13.4% of the population who participated in this study that was done by Stop Bullying stated that they were the subject of a rumor. Another 13% said that they were being insulted by their peers. 5.3% admitted to being physically bullied by being pushed, shoved, tripped, and spit on. 5.2% stated that they felt left out. So there's that social bullying. 3.9% reported being threatened by their bully. 1.9% actually stated that they were being peer pressured, which is a form of bullying as well. That's also considered social bullying. 1.4% reported that their property was destroyed. So this means maybe their lockers were trashed, or their tablets or their cell phones or books. These different things were destroyed as a result of them being bullied. And then the highest of all, 15% of them reported being bullied online. 15% of the group reported that they were bullied online. So that lets us know that cyberbullying is rising among our youth. So why do people bully others? This is a question that a lot of people, they sit back and wonder. So this study that was done by a Very Well family, they actually came up with 7 P's, the 7 P's of why people bully others. And I want to point out, this is not only for children, this is also for adults as well. So the first one is power. A lot of people bully others because they want to express power, or they want to feel as if they have more power than the other person. Next, you have popularity. People bully others so that they can be the more popular one. They want people to fear them. They want people to be intimidated by them. The next one is payback. Maybe a student got a better grade, or the student took the last spot on the basketball team. So people bully so that they can get payback. The next one that I like to point out to families is that problems at home can cause a person to be bullied. Problems at home. So a lot of times children may be going through things at home with their family, and they take that out on the other kids. Or they do things to bully others so that the attention is not on them. It puts the attention on other people. The next one is pleasure. Now that sounds weird, but a lot of people do bully others just because it feels good to them in the moment. So they do it to get a reaction out of the other person, because that reaction gives them pleasure, which we'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. The next one is prejudice, meaning whether someone is being prejudiced against another person's race or their social class, or anything that's considered, whether it's racism, classism, or any of that. And then last, you have peer pressure. A lot of students and adults bully others because they see other people doing it, and they're wanting to be a part of the crowd. So again, those are the 7 P's of why people bully other people. So here are some warning signs that your child is being bullied, or that you're being bullied if you're watching, or maybe a friend, family member. So you want to pay attention to the warning signs. The first one is social isolation. Social isolation is basically when you notice that a child or an adult has decided that they no longer want to be included in different things. Random injuries, when you don't know where the injuries came from, you may want to check into it, because maybe they're being physically bullied. Next is increased anxiety and depression. So you notice that your child or you notice that you are more nervous, you're more down, you're not really wanting to interact with other people, you're feeling hopeless. Um, Maybe you've lost interest. Maybe you notice that your child loved being on the baseball team last year, but all of a sudden they're no longer interested in playing baseball, or they no longer want to be on the dance team. Um, a decline in grades. Maybe now they can't really focus on their schoolwork because they're worried about what the bully is going to do. Um, Headaches and stomach aches. All of a sudden, you notice that your child's head is always hurting, or you notice that you have a stomach ache. Changes in appetite and sleep habits. Then you have frequent nightmares. And then the biggest one here is a change in confidence and self esteem. Is we're going to talk a little bit about how to boost your self esteem, especially if you're being bullied. Loss of special items, meaning they no longer have the headphones that they had, or they no longer have their tablet anymore. And you're wondering, well, what happened to it? But maybe the bully took it from them. Self destructive behaviors. A lot of times, this self destructive behaviors can cause students to feel as if, well, I'm being bullied anyway, so therefore I'm going to do something to hurt myself, or I'm going to do something to get myself in trouble. Suicidal ideation is another one. Now they're probably thinking, well, maybe I'll just disappear, or maybe things will be better. So you really want to be mindful if you're hearing your child, or if you're thinking, or if you're having any suicidal ideations. And then the last one, which happens to be, I think, the most common one of all, increased desire to skip school. You notice that you no longer want to go to school, or your child is no longer wanting to go anymore. When maybe they used to love school, but now they're not wanting to go, and they're finding any reason that they can to not go. So, how to deal with bullies? How to deal with bullies? This can be a very difficult task because, as we know, bullies instill fear. They instill fear. And for all of those seven P's, they enjoy they enjoy getting those reactions out of people. So the first thing that you can do is to immediately ask them to stop. You want to let them know that you're uncomfortable. The next one is, it says to avoid the bully as much as possible, which means to ignore him or her. Take a different route. If they're cyberbullying you, block them online where they don't have access to you on any platform. Avoid showing your true feelings to the bully. So I want to clarify that. It doesn't mean that you should not experience your feelings. It just means to not show your true feelings to the bully. Because again, bullies thrive off of emotions. They like to see that they're hurting you, they like to see that you're being bothered by them. So you want to make sure that you're not showing them that you're afraid or that you're bothered by it. The next one says to show confidence, even if you don't really feel confident. So this is one of those instances where it's okay to fake it. Even if you don't really feel confident, you want to show them that you are. Bullies tend to shy away from people who are confident because they start to realize, or they start to think, that they can't break that person, or that they can't get to that person as much. The next one is to give a neutral response, which is my favorite thing to tell my children, especially. Um, a neutral response is, again, showing that bully that you're not really bothered by it, but it also shows them that you're not going to be pushed to have the reaction that they want you to have. So, for example, if a child says to another child, I don't like your shoes, it's okay for the child to respond and say, thank you. That may sound a little bit weird, but the more you say things, it throws that bully off, and eventually they don't want to be embarrassed anymore. So they'll decide, okay, I'm going to leave this person alone because they're not giving me the response that I'm looking for. Seek help. Seek help. And what I mean by that is to tell someone. A lot of our children are afraid of telling because they don't want to be seen as what we used to say as a tattletale. When you're being bullied, it's not considered tattletelling because tattletelling is all about just trying to get someone in trouble. Whereas telling is trying to get you the help that you need because you want it to stop. So we have to be mindful that sometimes kids, they're not telling people because they don't want the bully either to get in trouble or they don't want the bully to come after them harder. So it's important that as parents, teachers, anyone, any adult, it's important that we pay attention to what's happening around us because a lot of times kids are not really sharing what's actually happening. So you want to make sure you're paying attention to those warning signs and seeing how the child or how the students are interacting with the other people. Are they seeming comfortable? Does it seem like a safe space? So you want to make sure that you're mindful of what's happening because the child really may not come to you and say anything about it. And then the last one is to know yourself. Know yourself. Bullies try to teach you that you aren't who you think you are. So it's so important that you know who you are so that they can't interfere with that. So how do you know yourself? How do you figure out who you are? So the first and most important thing is to identify your strengths. Identify the best parts of you as a person. I always ask my clients, both children and adults, during our intake session, what are the best things about you as a person? And it typically throws people off because a lot of times we don't think about the best parts of us. We're so focused on our weaknesses. We're so focused on the things that we don't have or that we can't do. So you want to make sure that you identify your strengths. And that's not being, I had a client one time tell me, well, I've never thought about it because I don't want to seem vain or I don't want to seem cocky. And I explained, no, it's not you being cocky at all. It's recognizing the things about yourself that you worked on, that people value in you. So it's nothing wrong with knowing what your strengths are as a person. You want to identify your positive traits. What makes you you? You know, what makes you you? What makes people drawn to you? What makes people enjoy your company or what makes them want to know you more? Identify what makes you unique. Bullies oftentimes try and find things about you that they believe doesn't fit in with other people. So you want to know what makes you different. It's okay to be different. It's okay to be unique. There's nothing wrong with that. So you want to honor the things that make you different from other people. You want to find ways to improve your weaknesses. We all have weaknesses. None of us can say that we don't have any. So you want to make sure that you're improving whatever those weaknesses are. Stay true to yourself. You never have to feel as if you have to change who you are to fit in with the crowd. And you always want to stay true to who you are as a person. And then this last thing here, as you all know, this is U.B.U. So again, in the spirit of staying true to yourself, you be you. You be yourself and be proud of who you are as a person. It's so important that we allow not only, ourselves as adults, but that we encourage children to be themselves. Children, the reason bullying is so dangerous, especially for children, is because children are still trying to develop. They're still learning themselves. So it's important as adults that we help them by giving them compliments, by pointing out their strengths, encouraging them to be themselves, and letting them know that they don't have to change who they are to fit in with anyone. So here are some prompts for boosting self-esteem. So this can be journal prompts. This can be just things that you think about randomly, but these are all designed to help you boost your self-esteem and to identify those positive things about yourself. So the first one is things that I'm good at. So what are some things that you know that you're good at? I like to say that everyone, no matter who we all have talents. We all have something that we're good at. So as an adult, it's important to help children recognize what those things are. You want to encourage and cultivate whatever those strengths may be. What are some compliments that you've received? I'm sure all of us have received compliments. So it's important to remember what those compliments were, because that can also help you to just stay true to yourself and also recognize what some of your positive traits are. Things that I like about my appearance. It's okay to think about, okay, well, what do I like about myself? Um, Things that make me unique. What makes me different? What makes me stand out? What are some challenges that I've overcome? This is important because if you're being bullied, you're thinking that there's no way out. So you want to remember what are some things or challenges that you've had that you've been able to overcome throughout life. So that's a very important one to help you know that just like you got through the last incident, whatever it may have been, you can do the same for this situation as well. And then what are some ways that you've helped other people? That's important because again, part of who we are, we want to share that with other people. So, what are some ways that other people have shared with you that you've helped them? Or how have you made other people happy? You just want to be mindful of knowing what is it that you've offered that helps other people. So, all of these things, all of these prompts are to help you. Another thing that I don't have on the slide here is that you can come up with your own personal affirmations, meaning you can come up with things to tell yourself, especially if you're being bullied in the moment. You want to be able to say positive things to yourself to keep you encouraged. So I want to go back again to the warning sign slide again, because I think this is very important. You want to make sure that you're paying attention to the signs. And if we have children watching, I also want to encourage you to pay attention to these signs for your classmates or your friends. If you notice that some of these things are happening, you want to make sure that you're checking in with that friend and that you're also getting them the help that you need or that they need. I'm sorry. So be mindful of these warning signs. If you're a teacher, if you're a parent, grandparent, aunt, uncle, a student, friend, you want to pay attention to the signs to make sure that this is not happening around you. So at this moment, if anyone has any questions or any comments that you would like to share, I would love to be able to answer them or just engage in further conversation.
All right. Let's see if we can find some of the questions. What I also would like for you to, Dr. Johnson, to elaborate on, and we'll get some of the questions perhaps that will come. And I really, really appreciate you sharing with us today. Many have also shared those same sentiments that the information was really beneficial to them and it was really, really good information. So thank you for sharing with us and encouraging us in how to deal with bullying and to be aware of some of the signs and etc. What I would like for you to elaborate on in a day in which we live in, that we're all online and social media, cyberbullying, um, and the destructiveness of that, and how one can, like we know, physical bullying. You're there to tell them, thank you, and etc. Do you respond to those individuals that cyberbully, or how do you perhaps have it? Because we need to talk about how prevalent cyberbullying is, and there's some people behind the keyboard uh, can really, really bully and say a lot of things concerning, being intimidating to others. So if you talk a little bit more about that, and then we're going to gather these questions and ask them so that you can answer for our audience.
Cyberbullying, it is very common. And I always tell people it's okay if you're wanting to respond to that person to let them know that what they're doing is not appreciated. And if that person continues, you can block them. You can remove access from them being able to see you as well as you being able to see them. Sometimes people comment things because they're wanting to start a conversation, but you have to be mindful of knowing, okay, what is this person's intention? Is it to spark a conversation? Is it to just express a different opinion than what I may have? So you want to make sure that if that person is not respectful of you letting them know that you're not appreciative of whatever comment that they're making, you can just remove them. You don't have to keep engaging with that person because, again, bullies thrive off of reactions. So if you're commenting back over and over, or you're, going off or whatever, you're feeding into that. And that's something you don't want to do because the more you feed into it, the more the bully is going to actually, they're going to keep it going, or they're going to go even further than what they're going already. So you don't want to just engage in constant conversation because the great thing about the cyberspace, is that you can remove people, that you can block them, and you don't have to, they don't have to be in your space. So on any network, Facebook, um, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, and I'm sure there are lots of TikTok, you can remove their access, but they can no longer see your content, and then you can't see their content either.
Wow. You said something that really sticks out a moment ago. You said bullies thrive off of reactions. When they get them, I think you mentioned earlier in the presentation that bullies just appreciate the fear, the reaction, the fear that they can see when they're up to those tactics. And you just mentioned something that I just highlighted. Bullies thrive off reactions, and when we give them to them, it definitely is something that they relishes. They just appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to talk a moment about the adults as well when you talk about bullying, because you have people who use their power to bully. People who are in positions of authority, people who have titles. They use them as a mean of bullying. But we're going to get to Ebony's question first, and you can see it there on the screen. Are the warning signs the same if a child is being bullied at home?
Yes, the warning signs can be the same. Thank you for that question because it's so important, especially if a child is being bullied at home. You're going to see those signs elsewhere, whether it be at school, at church, or in other environments. So it's important to recognize if they seem to be afraid to go home, or if they seem elated to not be home, or even just noticing changes within that child. For example, maybe they're not eating as much or they're not sleeping as much. So you can recognize, especially if you're a teacher and you're spending hours with that student, you can recognize if there's a difference in behavior, if there's an adjustment to the child's self-esteem as well as their appearance, or how they're responding to things. Because a lot of children come to school, and I want to point this out too. The people that are being bullied, as well as the kids that are bullies, they can act out because of things that's happening at home. So I know we've been spending a lot of time talking about how to stop from being bullied or being aware of how children are bullied. But you want to pay attention that if a child is being a bully, it could be because there's something happening at home that's causing them to act out. So you want to pay attention to the signs there as well.
Okay. Um, Thank you for that question, Ebony, and thank you, Dr. Johnson, for the response to that question. We talked a minute ago, and while other questions perhaps come, We talked a moment ago about cyberbullying and people with position and titles and authority that bullies and what that looked like. But how about this? And I think it happens more often than sometimes we're willing to admit. But people who bully with negative uh, gossip, people who bully with negative jokes on the expense of others. I mean, they may feel, and they're crushing individuals. And children perhaps can go through that. Adults also can go through that. How does one deal with things like that? Because you can find people who are just bullied, people are just saying all kinds of things about them or concerning them, and those children feel really crushed, or adults may feel really crushed. How do you deal with that?
The first thing is just letting the person know that it's making you uncomfortable, that it's making you feel bad about yourself. And of course, if they don't stop, then that's when we go into figuring out how to get some type of assistance. If it's a student or a child, of course, you want to notify your teacher. You want to notify a counselor at school. You want to let someone know that this is happening and you've already shared with that person that it's uncomfortable. With adults, it's the same thing of just letting them know, I'm finding these comments to be hurtful. So therefore, I would appreciate if you don't say these things. And if they're continuing to do it, then you really have to evaluate that person's position in your life, because this could be a person who is considered to be a friend. Um, if it's someone at work and you've gone to them and you've let them know, then the next step is to let HR know. You want to make sure that you hold people accountable for the things that they're saying, especially if they're not honoring your requests for them to stop. A lot of people, especially adults, I think it's a little bit more difficult because you don't know why this person is engaging in this behavior. So you want to make sure that this person knows you're not going to be passive, or that you're not going to feed into it. So you want to make sure that if it is work, that you let them know, if you don't stop, then I'm gonna have to take the next step, which I don't want to do, but if I have to, then I'll report it. You know, if it's a family member, because this happens in family members can bully other family members. So-called friends can bully their friends. So if that's happening, then you want to figure out how to create boundaries with that person, to let them know after you told them that you're not comfortable with the way that they're speaking or the things that they're saying about you, and they're still continuing to do it. You have to instill some boundaries where that either means not interacting with that person, having less interaction with that person, or just figuring out a way where that person does not have as much access again to you. Because you have to, it's a saying that we always say, and I'm sure a lot of you have heard it, but you have to teach people how to treat you. So you have to let them know this is not acceptable and I'm not going to allow you to speak to me that way. So you just want to hold people accountable and speak up for yourself.
Okay. All right. Let me see if there's another question here, or rather, this is a comment. I'm not sure.
And sometimes, Ms. Harris, that does happen where HR does not take the necessary steps, or they don't act on it because they're, for whatever reason. And I always tell people um, there's always someone above HR. There's always someone above HR. I know a lot of jobs they have, and I can't even think of the correct term for it, but it's almost like an employees union or something like that. Different jobs have different names for that, but there's always someone above HR. So if this is happening to you, you want to make sure that you find out who is that next step, because you do have rights as a person and as an employee, and someone should be taking action on the things that you're experiencing.
And also, I think with Miss Harris is talking about the events that unfolded in her own experience, then there are laws as well, and there are uh, and the law is above HR. If someone is actually bullying and physically doing something, there are laws that are involved, and if HR doesn't seem to take action, then as you mentioned, Dr. Johnson, one would have to take the next step, and whatever the next step would be in that particular situation is what one would have to do, without feeling bad about having to take the next step, to get some kind of comfort from the thing that is causing discomfort.
It's so true. You may have to take legal action if the job is not doing what they're supposed to do. A lot of times that legal action will get people to move a lot quicker because they don't want to have to deal with lawsuits or people being involved within the agency. You definitely want to document all of the things that have happened. You want to document the interactions that you've had with HR and their failure to take action, so that you can take that next step and you'll have proof of the things that you've tried, because it sounds like you tried to resolve things with your job, but that hasn't been happening. So you want to check and see what's the next option there.
And I think this is also important, Dr. Johnson. A bully have a tendency to pick on someone they perceive to be weak.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing when you watch bullies, and we want to also make sure that we caution that none of us be a bully.
Exactly.
However, when you talk about bullies, they just have a tendency to choose or pick someone that they perceive to be weak, and that's who they pick on, because there are others around that they could choose, but they tend to choose the one that they can get this reaction from, or build this fear in, or the one that's passive, that just allow them to say, as you mentioned earlier, the example you gave concerning the child, your shoes are ugly. And if the child says, thank you, okay, and they start getting those actions, then I think that they realize that you're not, as you mentioned earlier, they're not going to buy into and be pulled or drug into something that really makes no sense. Because, as you said, many times you don't know the reason why the bully is doing the bullying, for whatever the reason is. But certainly we know that they thrive on those reactions that are fearful, and that allows you or causes you to become, passive, and very, very much go into shell. And they sort of thrive on that. And I think that those of us, and I think all of us can probably recollect a time that we've all been bullied, and many of us times that we perhaps have played the bully.
Yeah, I think and I'm glad that you mentioned we have to make sure that we're not the bully. um, and especially as adults, we tend to think, well, we can't bully people. No, you can. You absolutely can. So you want to make sure that you're not engaging in these behaviors that we're talking about, because as we know, it does create a lot of issues for people, whether it be self-esteem, um, anxiety, depression, just feeling unworthy. These are things that really take a toll on other people. So we have to be mindful of what we're saying to others. We have to be mindful of how we're treating other people. So not only focus on the warning signs of how to know if someone else is being bullied or how you're being bullied, but pay attention and making sure that you're not taking part in those actions as well.
Yes, and bullying. When we think of bullying, it is really a sign of weakness on the bully's part.
Mm-hmm.
It and I can't something that when insecurity shows themselves many times through bullying. And I think the slide, if you go back to that slide that talked about some of the reasons people bully, it was 7 P's. I think you had, um, you know, uh, pleasures or prejudice, and there's some other things you can add to this list about why people bully other people. Jealousy.
Mm-hmm.
People tell you, as you use the example about the child and the shoe, I don't like your shoe because they really love your shoe and wish they had it.
Mm-hmm.
Or whatever negative thing that they are spewing, it's because they're jealous of you and they are insecure. And a lot of times the bully is very, very insecure. And we talked about when you're being bullied, we talked about going to HR, people in authority, law enforcement, and also, Dr. Johnson, you who are a professional can help those who are being bullied. We don't want anyone to feel like they are alone and that there's no one to help them, because when you get ready to stand up against the bully, be ready, be ready, but also make sure you're standing up and you have some support. Make sure you're, that you're in a safe place when you're standing up to the bully. But it's so important that you realize that when a person is a bully, it's more about them and their insecurities than anything else. But what they want to make you feel as if though there is something wrong with you. And so they use this behavior. They engage in this kind of destructive behavior to tear your self-esteem down. And I think Dr. Johnson also mentioned to us that we need to know who we are. When you know who you are, it doesn't matter what the bully is saying. The bully can be saying some pretty harsh things, but when you know who you are, and Dr. Johnson, like myself, we were both raised in Mississippi, right? We were both raised in Mississippi, and of course, I'm a considerable amount of years older than you are, but when we went to school, people would say things like what they call play the dozen, talk about your mother or your father. And what your mother and father or teachers would tell you, do they know your mama? Or do they know your daddy? And what they were saying wasn't even true, but they thrived on the reaction that they got from the person that they played those games with, that they engaged in that behavior, that negative behavior with, because what they liked was that it upset you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, as you mentioned earlier, know who you are and be who you are, and not allow the bully to define you, not allow the negative behavior that they engage in to define who you are and to cause you to be anything different than who you are. You be you. And it's so important. And I really want to thank Dr. Johnson for her time today and sharing with us about being aware of bullying or bullying awareness. And really, this is really, really good information. And thank you for this, because I know a lot of people have been helped, those who are listening now, and those who will return to listen to this later will be really, really helped. And I just want to appreciate you for availing yourself to help us to deal with some of the common issues of our era and some of the things that we faced or face on a daily basis. So thank you so much. Will you take time again to tell them a little bit more about your professional services and how to have access to those professional services and et cetera.
Sure, and thank you so much again for having me. I hope that this information has been helpful to those who are watching now and the ones who will come back and watch later. So I am a professional counselor, and I currently provide services for both children and adults at the Counseling Services of Atlanta. If you type my name in on the database of Psychology Today or Therapy for Black Girls, you'll see my biography as well as how to contact me. Um, my email address for anyone who simply has a question, or maybe you're looking for a therapist, or maybe you're just needing some assistance, you're more than welcome to send me an email. And that email is my first name dot last name at gmail.com. So that's ERINISHA dot Johnson at gmail.com. And I also have a social media platform where I share weekly content on mental health topics as far as psychoeducational materials. And that can be found, it's listed as Therapeutic Gems on Instagram as well as Facebook. So please feel free to follow me on those pages. And again, I post weekly content about different topics. This past week, or this week, the topic has been emotional processing. So feel free to take a look at that information as well as go back and see what other weeks have been about. Again, my email address is ERINISHA.Johnson@gmail.com. And I'll look forward to just continuing to connect with you all further.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Johnson, for sharing that information. And I hope that those who are in need of those services, I don't know if I say those who are in need, I think all of us are in need of services like yours, and hope that they will be courageous enough to reach out and take advantage of those who have prepared themselves and those who are professionals such as yourself. So thank you so very much. Thank you to those of you who are in our audience today. We really, really appreciate you for being a part of U.B.U. And we're asking that you'll help us to spread the word. It's first and second Saturday. It's first Saturday for ages 12 to 17. And of course, we want adults to be a part of that. And then 18 and above will have subjects that cater more particularly to that age group. So please, ladies and gentlemen, help us to spread the word that Dr. Johnson, a licensed practicing counselor, therapist, is with us, who's qualified to help us. And so help others to take advantage of this opportunity. We are Lifewater, Lifewater Inc. We're a nonprofit organization, and we like bringing hope to humanity by connecting with our community. You can Google Lifewater Inc. and know more about who we are. I founded Lifewater and is president of Lifewater Inc. in 2007. And the whole goal was to bring hope to humanity by connecting with our community, inspired by a group in Nakuru, Kenya. And on a plane from that visit was inspired to have Lifewater Inc. bring hope to humanity by connecting with our community. So thank you for your support. Thank you for your love. Help us, help others, because I think as we share, we become aware of those things in which we've tried to bring to you in the previous weeks as well as on today. So again, Dr. Johnson, thank you so much. To our listening audience, thank you so much. Dr. Johnson, there are a few people saying thank you for helping today. And Ebony is one, Ms. Harris is another one, and Yolanda is also another one. And so all of those who are sharing today say thank you, and we really appreciate you, Dr. Johnson, and we appreciate you, the listening audience. So, Dr. Johnson, I don't know if you have a wrap-up line, or we could just conclude our time together today. But I want to say this: stand up to bullies. Stand up to bullies. And please know that you are not alone. Stand up to bullies and know that you're not alone.
And I just want to add, build a support system. Know who's in your circle that you can talk to, whether that be a trusted family member, friend. Add a therapist to your circle as well if you don't have one. And yes, Ms. Harris, you definitely can contact me. I'll make sure I go back and comment on your post so that you'll be able to contact me from there. Thank you so much. Thank you all for listening. And again, I'm thankful for Lifewater for having me again.
All right. Well, you all are absolutely wonderful, and we really appreciate the opportunity to serve you, and we hope that you were extremely helped on today. So, till we meet again, remember, you be you. Until we meet again.